Hey Sam, how's it going?
Hey, buddy. How are things?
Welcome, Sam.
How are y'all? Did I just say y'all? I
We're
can't
good.
believe I just said y'all.
You've been speaking to Mikey for too long.
I know.
I'm
I think that's probably what it is, 100%.
I'm from Kentucky, so I'll accept it. I'll allow it.
I love it.
Brilliant. We'll just give Lee a little bit longer, Sam, and then we'll kick things off. I think he should be here soon. Hopefully. Or you'll have a lot of questions, Sam.
Oh, good. I love questions. I don't know how many people were able to join us. I know a few of us were. We just finished our Harmony DAO Ops spaces, Twitter spaces, just a few minutes ago, talking about the DAO Alliance, the One DAO Alliance, and what that is. And so I'm happy to go in more because I bet that there's a significant amount of people that will be on this spaces that missed the Harmony download. So I'm really kind of looking forward to talking about it and answering questions. I think this will be great.
I think that's my second question for you today, Sam. So we'll definitely go into that. I'm sure everyone wants to know how it was formed and what it's for, what it serves, what purpose it serves.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we have Lee with us. Hey, Lee.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, Lee, welcome.
So before we start, guys, we'll just pass it over to Harmonious Dude, and he'll do the intro for us. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Before I get started, I'll just say that we do have some prepared questions that we got from the community. So during that period, we will just be keeping the floor open to the featured speakers, and then after that, we will open up things where you can request the mic and ask some questions as you see fit. But for now, I'll just get started with a few community DAO announcements real quick. First off, the community DAO is the DAO that represents the entirety of the Harmony community. The Harmony Community DAO mandates are as follows. These mandates serve as the ultimate role for the Harmony Community DAO. The first is growth, to onboard users on missions and culture and pollinate values across communities. The second is engagement, to amplify content of roadmap and milestones with creative campaigns of products. And the third is diversity, to solicit voices and votes in forums and reinforce strong governance participation. The purpose of these Twitter spaces is to inform the community of activities surrounding the DAO, provide updates to the Harmony roadmap, and announce upcoming events and new developments within the community. But most importantly, these spaces are an opportunity for you, the community, to ask questions and provide opinions on any number of subjects that you feel fall within our mandates. First item, just to speak about real quick, every week on Monday at 7 p.m. UTC, we host open town hall meetings where we invite you, the community, to participate in the conversation of the direction of the DAO. The link is above for you to join our Discord, and we'd be happy to have you participate in those meetings on Monday. Next tweet over. Second from the right, every Wednesday in the Crypto Arcade, we host an open work session. It's similar to the town hall meeting, but a little bit more focused. We decide on one or two topics to try and tackle a little bit more in depth. And it's been a lot of fun. We've had about 20 people show up pretty much consistently every week, and really appreciate everybody that shows up and would love to see you there. Third, we host a community movie night every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. The poll has concluded, and next week we will be showing Dirty Work comedy, and that takes place in the Crypto Arcade in the Community DAO Clubhouse. You can find the link for that above. Fourth, we currently have a meme contest, meme madness going on in our Discord. We are having a party tomorrow to decide the winners. So please join us. I believe that's 1 p.m. Eastern time that takes place. So please go to our Discord and participate in that. You still got time to get in. And next on the list, we have officially gotten approval to move ahead with our crazy.1 domain development. And we are looking for UX, UI, and graphic designers to help us complete the first bounty of this program. So if you are interested, or if you could just please share the tweet above, there's a form on there detailing what we're looking for a little bit more, and we are accepting applications for the next few weeks for that. So please check that out. Next tweet over is the Harmony Community Calendar, where we attempt to list every Twitter space and event going on throughout the community. And you can subscribe to that, and it'll link to your Gmail calendar. So check that out. And if you have any events yourselves that you're hosting, we would love to have them added. So just reach out to us and we'll get it on the schedule. Last point before we pass it over, we've been hosting these discussions with members from the core team the last few weeks, and they've been so helpful to the community, the DAO, and I think even the core team has gotten a lot out of them too. So they're really great discussions. We have a couple of them pinned at the top where you can listen to the recordings from previous weeks. And that's about all I have for you today before our AMA. So now I'm going to hand it over to Bricktop, who will welcome our guests.
Thank you, Harmonious Dude. Every single week he gets better at these intros, more efficient every time. So thanks for that, man. So hey everyone, thanks for coming along today to the Community DAO Spaces. I just want to make everyone aware that every Friday at 11 a.m. PST we host these spaces. Next week we should have guests on a project on mainnet. So make sure you come along for that. We'll release more information soon. So yeah, it's great that you've shown up today to participate and get involved and hear the conversations happening. We're lucky enough to have Lee and Sam with us from the core team today. Thank you so much for coming along today, guys. And today we're going to be discussing Harmony's DAO Vision, DAO Funding and Grants, Harmony events, ecosystem funds and allocations, and also One DAO, and we'll give you more information on that soon. First, if we can just ask the guys to introduce themselves for people that are not familiar, can we start with Lee, if possible?
Hey, everyone. So hope I'm coming across clearly. Thank you guys for putting this on. And yeah, just as an introduction, I've been with the project from its early days before Harmony was even formed. There's a good story that if you guys ever grab me for coffee, we'll share that. But yeah, I've been with the project since the early days and seen it grow to where it is today. Really amazing to see, basically in the last year, both the formation of all the DAOs, including the community DAO, and as well as the ecosystem fund, which was launched in September of last year. So almost at our 9-month mark. So definitely want to share some updates and answer any questions today. And I'll leave it there, turn it over to Sam. But yeah, happy to be on this call with everyone.
Happy to be on the call with you, Lee. I always enjoy getting your wisdom. It's great. And also always happy to engage. Brick and I have had a good relationship over the last year. I think I owe him a couple of ice cream cones. So it's always fun to talk to him. Harmonious, it's always good to hear your voice. Honestly, every opportunity I can have to have a conversation with the community, I actually really like. It's one of my core tenets is that I think that the blockchains live and die based on their community. And I am constantly trying to figure out more and more ways that I can communicate and work with the community. I have been with Harmony just over a year. I came on to help accelerate the ecosystem growth. And since that time, we have dramatically increased our ecosystem in a lot of different ways. We've gone, we have gone from barely having our own first DEX out there to having the largest game in crypto on Harmony, and having 0 DAOs and nobody really understanding anything about DAOs, to having a very vibrant DAO ecosystem and launching what we've referred to as the One DAO Alliance, which, just to give you a little bit of early alpha here, is not a DAO. It's a clearinghouse and a place that we can have these conversations about what DAOs are doing and what they should be doing. And I'll go into more of that a little bit later. But yeah, that's kind of my job. My role right now is kind of the head of the DAO programming. So I run the DAO operations team, which is a great, fantastic group of people. I see Devin and Strong Minds Hold both listening in, and I cannot be, more happy to be working with people like that.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. So just before we start, I just want to say one last thank you to everyone that spent time submitting comments on the forums, such as Reddit and on the Google Docs, preparing for the AMA for Sam and Lee today. I know the core team have put a lot of effort into addressing concerns, and I know that they really appreciate your time when you take time out to, add your concerns or address things that you want to speak about and find answers to. So thank you for all the time spent from everyone. I think there was nearly 100 comments on Reddit for this post, and some people were very helpful on the Google Docs, putting some questions together, which we'll read through today. So thank you so much. And just before we start, Sam, so we'd like to break things down for newcomers as well, perhaps people that are new to Harmony that are catching these spaces. Can you just explain very quickly, what DAOs are and the importance of DAOs for our beginners here?
Of course. Let's see where to start with this one. Okay, so what is a DAO? A DAO is, of course, a decentralized autonomous organization. There are a variety of different types of DAOs. The most common, most sustainable one is known as an investment DAO. But then we also have product DAOs and service DAOs and community DAOs. The common themes that run through all of these various different DAOs is that this is a group of people that share a common interest, that share common assets, and share responsibility for the success, failure, management of those assets, all of those various different things. So that's what a DAO is. The importance of DAO is a lot of different things. Going back to one of the things that I said earlier, my primary reason why I think DAOs are incredibly important is because DAOs give us a place where everybody in the community has a friend, has a tribe, has a group of people that resonate with the things that they're interested in. If you're interested in DeFi, you can join a DeFi DAO and talk about early alpha into various different DeFi projects. If you're into NFTs, you can join an NFT DAO and learn more and more about, what is an NFT but beyond just being a JPEG? Is there utility there? Is there intellectual property available there? And so DAOs themselves are a way of organizing communities in a decentralized way where you have ownership over your actions and accountability for that. And that is the key thing about what Web3 is about, is this radical ownership economy. And so if we want to take it one step beyond, hey, I own my own money, which is the growth of Bitcoin, right? I actually own it. It's not just somebody else's digitally. I own my keys. We want to go to the next level, which is I own my digital pictures. So we have NFTs. Now let's say we own our communities. We own our participation. We own what we do. And this is not a new thing. There are things called co-ops that have been around much longer than Web3 that actually have a higher success rate than traditional corporations as far as longevity and survival. So that's why I think DAOs are important. It gives us an opportunity to move further into the ownership of our contributions into our communities. But I'll pause there and see if that makes sense, see if there's questions. If you guys want me to elaborate on any particular point, Lee, if you want to jump in and say anything further on that, I think that could be helpful. I could end up talking just nonstop for hours, as people who know me can, attest to.
Yeah, I think we've got plenty of other questions that are going to discuss DAOs and bring up these topics. I know, Sam, I bet you're so tired of saying the word DAO. I mean, it's nearly been a year for me and I can barely say it anymore without, I'm pretty sure I'm saying it in my sleep also. So going on to my next question, we briefly mentioned a new alliance that's been formed called the One DAO, which will help DAO scale essentially and just kind of help DAOs govern themselves essentially. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about this?
The idea here is that we have been doing DAOs for just about a year now. We have the DAO program has seen 3, 4, 5 different iterations of how it works. And I think this is the one that we're taking all of the learnings from all of these iterations and putting it together to make a sustainable DAO ecosystem on Harmony. The DAO Alliance, number one, is not a DAO. It is an iteration on a town hall. The One DAO Alliance is a place that we will collect data as far as reporting, as far as participation, as far as growing the reputation of DAOists. It allows us to make better decisions and spread best practices of how working in a DAO actually works. The Alliance is a hub, I guess you could say, of the various different interests and verticals that you would find in Harmony, everything from, like I said, DeFi to just being a member of the community DAO, to anything like that. It's also a place for ecosystem-wide voting. For example, what we'll be doing when the Alliance launches, which is we're targeting July 1st, is that if a DAO comes in for a grant proposal, they have to get 3 strong yeses from the DAO Ops team. But then in addition to that, the One DAO Alliance also has to approve that grant. And that One DAO Alliance is populated by representatives from the various different DAOs in Harmony. So this is a place where the community can really start allowing their voices to be heard about these grant decisions. Also, the Alliance is a place that will be generating education and onboarding material and tools for those who are participating and working in DAOs. So that's, I don't know if that's enough, but that's what the Alliance is.
Fantastic. And just one last question, Sam. So speaking hypothetically, if you could have the perfect, fully functioning DAO ecosystem, what would that look like on Harmony?
That's an excellent question. What I would see is as we drop into the Harmony ecosystem and whatever portal that would be, Reddit, Twitter, the website, the talk forum, Notion, any of those places you drop in and you say, I want to learn more about this, you would be able to find a community that can do that, right? That can teach you more. If you're looking for investment, if you're looking for contributors, if you're looking for creative talent, if you're looking for developer talent, all those various different things, there will be a DAO that can service that. Additionally, this decentralization, the power that a DAO gives us when it is fully operational, meaning that it is fully decentralized, fully autonomous, and fully organized, which I'm having a hard time finding a really good example of one that does that. But the idea is once it's fully operational, what we are capturing here is the enthusiasm for the various different members in the community for the thing that they're interested in, meaning that they spend all their time, like Flu, for example, spends all of his time searching for early alpha on DeFi projects or gaming projects or whatever. And so the people who participate in that same ecosystem with Flu will gain from his enthusiasm more than waiting for a report from Masari or a report from, CoinDesk or wherever to give them that information. You can capture that early enthusiasm inside of a DAO much better than you can capture it in any other format. So when we have the fully operational ecosystem, everybody will have a place. You can find your tribe. You can find the place that you live, right? The output of those DAOs will be substantially higher because the enthusiasm that you capture will be better than the traditional mechanisms. The way in which funding will work will be really interesting, and we're trying to figure that out. That is one of the most difficult things to solve, is a decentralized, self-sustaining organization that does not rely on early investments from whales, right? That's a really easy one to do, but that's one of the things that we're working on. Let's see, what else would I say really quickly? Honestly, the thing that would drive me happiest is that all of these DAOs are capturing all of this value and people are joining Harmony and people are coming to blockchain specifically to participate in DAOs. I want to see the growth of adoption of this technology and the concept of accountability and ownership to go absolutely through the roof through the mechanism of DAOs. I think it can happen. It's a big stretch, but I think that's the goal. That's what I see.
Fantastic, Sam. And we're just going to move over to Lee. We don't want to keep him waiting for questions here. So, Lee, we know you spend a lot of time traveling, networking for Harmony and learning. Can I ask, for 2022, what has been the most beneficial event that you have attended on behalf of Harmony, and why?
Yeah, so I think for us, we spent a lot of effort at ETH Denver, and the reason was also Sam also knows the answer to this question. It's really the best builder event of the year at the beginning of the year, and we felt like it was the right time to concentrate resource, and actually it really hugely grew our ecosystem with a number of grantees, a lot of projects that we met, and it was the biggest year. It basically took over the entire city of Denver. It was like the biggest event in that city for tech and Web3, obviously, with 15,000 people is their estimate. So that's something that, so the question about events and how we do events actually is a really good question. How we constantly ask ourselves to raise the bar on events and how we do them, how we get the best ROI on events. And we keep iterating the process. So we have a public page. It's harmony.one/events. And you can see the entire list of events that are both planned or that we are in the process of planning. And for each event, there's a budget. The entire community can actually see the budget down to fairly a granular level. And you can see what we're doing with all of our grants. So the one after Denver was Rio, and we also gave out a number of grants. The amount was much smaller in scale, just because it's a different market, but it had a huge impact that I think we made a huge lasting impression in that ecosystem. And so yeah, I think that's the way we think about events, like keep raising the bar to make it better. And of course, it's open to the entire community to see how we're doing them, which ones we're going to, why we do them. So that's a little bit about what we're doing there.
Yeah, so my next question was going to be, how to if there was any exciting events coming up. But if anyone wants to go and check that out, was that harmony.one/events, Lee?
Yes, harmony.one/events.
Perfect. So make sure everyone gets on that page just to see if there's any events happening locally. See if you can get a bus or a plane to any one of those. I know Harmony goes all out. Just going back to ETH Denver, I thought it was absolutely genius what you guys did. So if anyone doesn't know, ETH Denver was really cold this year, right? And Harmony had so much swag to give away. So pretty much everyone at the event was wearing like Harmony hats at the end and Harmony hoodies and stuff. So great one with that, guys. So yeah, just going back to the events, we've had a lot of people on the forums giving the Harmony core team a hard time. Obviously, with some of the more kind of normal situations, they don't get filmed and put on social media. But we had a lot of people claiming that all the core team do is dance at events and party. But could you really explain, just for the people that don't attend these events, what a typical day looks like for a Harmony core team member when they're focused on work?
Can
okay.
I?
Go
Lee,
ahead.
Do you mind if I pop in really quick and mention something? Because like it leads into this question a bit as well. But when you talked about how amazing ETH Denver was, yes, 100% it was amazing. And yes, we did have swag there. But one of the things that I think was the most impactful was actually not the swag nor the marketing, but it was the Harmony Hub. Right across the street from where all of the hackers were, we hosted our own hacking hub where we had technical support, funding support. We had all these various different things going. We fed these developers 24/7. And we had thousands of developers who built projects on Harmony during that time in that room. And that is the impact. That's what ETH Denver was about. Yes, it's great to have marketing, but the core mission of ETH Denver was about engaging these hackers, engaging these developers. So I'll just shut up there, but make sure, I just wanted to flag that as being super, super important. Oh, but to answer your question a little bit, and I can let Lee dive into it a little bit more, it's not really exciting to put on social media a picture of a bunch of people looking at a computer, right? It's like taking a picture of the Harmony Hub and showing all these people. Yes, it went out there, but it's not as exciting as a video or at an event or a party or something. Anyway, I'll let Lee answer the rest of that.
Okay, so a typical day is actually quite different than what you see on social, as Sam said. Like usually we're up fairly early, setting up a booth or going to the venue, making sure everything's all set, like opening the doors effectively to welcome people in. Of course, we do this on rotation. It won't be the same person every day. But then throughout the whole day is actually just meeting as many people and engaging with them, answering questions, seeing what their experience is. Like in the case of the hacker house, like are they able to deploy contracts? Where are they getting stuck? What questions they have? How we can help them. And then in the afternoons, like usually there are events throughout the afternoon, like different. We actually. I'll use a nerdy term. We shard, right? We shard the team, and we go into small groups and to different other partner events throughout the afternoon and evening. And then I mean, like a few times at ETH Denver we had a big party, and one of the things that people don't see, right? You only see the event itself. What you don't see is like the multi-day build-up to where we're giving out wristband and people are coming up to us. People are actually walking all over Denver downtown trying to find a Harmony team member to get a wristband to go into the event. That was really the power, right? That like 2,000 people had to talk to us just because we had put on one major festival concert with Deadmau5. So I think that's a big part of it. And actually, it's not always so glamorous. Sam, I think, doesn't drink. I haven't drank in many years since the day we started this project. And we actually need to be at the end of the party. We're the ones cleaning up and making sure everyone gets home safe, and the restaurant's taken care of, the venue's taken care of, and we get all of our banners home, and that's it. We go on and do the next day.
It's actually really exhausting. I don't like. Let's be really clear. ETH Denver, almost every single member of the Harmony team got sick at ETH Denver. A lot of them were down with COVID after ETH Denver. Some of them had to take a day or two off during the event simply because of exhaustion. Because a lot of us started the day at 6-7 o'clock in the morning because we were holding breakfasts or we had meetings or whatever it was, and then would finish the day at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Partly it was because of the events that we had to manage, but also partly because we try not to stop working. And so after all the events are done, we have to go back and open up our Telegram and Discord and emails and continue working. That's just hard. A lot of stuff.
For sure. And this next question was from a community member, and they've asked Lee this question. So they've said, do you believe Harmony has done a sufficient job in handling the DAO funding process in regards to transparency with the community, particular strategy, reasoning for funding approvals, DAO reporting requirements, and Harmony follow-up on these reporting requirements? If no, what things are you working on now to improve these areas?
So that's definitely a Sam question, but I'll kick it. I'll start it. So I think we have been transparent in everything we fund, including DAOs, including all the grants on the forum. So it's really not a matter, like everyone on this call or anywhere in the world can just go on the forum, search for the DAO that you're looking for, and see what we did, right? Like whether we funded them, when we did, what milestones they achieved. We definitely funded some DAOs early on in the process where we were like very excited about them, and we want them to make sure that they do write as much as possible for the community to evaluate. And there will be, I think, what will realistically happen is, as we start all these DAOs, that some will do very well and they'll keep updating the community and we'll keep backing them, and some will not do as well for whatever reason that they won't we won't continue to support them, just from like a fairness perspective, right? Like that we would make sure that we are backing the ones that are most engaged, just like any of our ecosystem project, that we should double down, if not really invest a lot of time and effort to help the ones that are committed to building in our ecosystem grow a lot more, versus some smaller experiments. Like I think we'll always continue to experiment as this entire industry, as blockchain, right? Like that we're creating new things out of really our imagination, our ideas, our passion, and there will be some that won't work out. That's just the nature, right? Before Harmony, I spent 6 years as an investor in Silicon Valley, and it's the same. It's a different format of a project that some will do well, and a lot actually will just be ideas, passions that may not go that far. But hopefully, some of the people that are in those projects, right, that we back, all good people, and they'll come back and they'll still engage with us years from now and keep building. And so I think maybe Sam can also share a little bit about the DAO funding guidelines and in how we, without, I won't get into the details, but like we will keep writing and iterating and making sure that the DAO funding guidelines is clear to everybody and is public always for anyone to see.
Yeah, just regarding the DAO funding process, regarding the transparency, we've tried, like Lee said, it's all on talk.harmony.one. There were occasionally some missteps at the very beginning, because figuring out the best way to get the approval going and then the funds flowing was sometimes a little difficult. We've clarified that. We have that pipeline working. And now the next step is to make sure that the approval process of what gets approved and what gets denied is clearer. And most importantly, and I think this is the thing that a lot of people are concerned about, is that when we approve something like a DAO for funding, how do we justify the value it's bringing to the Harmony protocol, to the platform itself? And I don't just mean value as far as like what are the financial assets that it's bringing in. I mean, what is the value to the protocol? What is the value to the community? What is the value to the adoption? What is the value to the corporate goodwill or the brand recognition of Harmony? All of those things contribute to the overall value of the protocol. And so making sure that that is incredibly clear, that people can see, is super important. The final thing that I think I cannot reiterate enough is the importance of reporting. Clear, consistent reporting about what your mandate is, what your deliverables for the near future are, what the metrics upon which you'll be judged on those are, and how you did, what income you had and what expenses you had, and why. All of those need to be reported. And that's not me saying that from a Harmony core member. That's me being a member of the community saying, hello, you're stewarding our funds. I want to understand why and what you're doing with it. That is so important.
So I certainly remember the old days when DAO started, and essentially a lot of the information that was asked was things such as, what is your multi-sig, who are the people on there, and what do you plan to do? And it's definitely got tighter over time, and more information is being requested. Just on a side note, so tomorrow the creative DAO funding request should be complete. There is so much information there. I ask anyone to go and take a look at that. We want community feedback, along with DAO operations, to give feedback on that. Also, Sam, not that it would help with the funding request at all, but there is also a song that has been made solely for you on the end of that proposal. So you're going to be crying laughing when you hear this. It's going to be brilliant. Promise you.
Good. Oh, good.
So, yeah, so the next question, another community raised question. So the community might know about core DAOs and what they set out to achieve, but from the non-core DAO perspective that have been funded, can anyone tell us something that the non-core DAOs have been working on or have achieved recently in the Harmony ecosystem that you may be aware of?
So there are 2 or 3 that I would love to talk about. And one of them I have to be a little bit circumspect because like some of the funding approvals and some of the things that they're working on are still a little bit in flight. Many of you know OG Lieberman, or Colin, who is fantastic and is a character, and I love him to death. And he is running probably one of the most engaging DAOs that we have, which is called the Sustainable Development DAO. Now, the Sustainable Development DAO, I would not consider it a core DAO because it doesn't, how we define core DAOs and not define core DAOs is a little bit squishy. But the Sustainable Development DAO has not, I don't think it's actually received a grant yet. There's a proposal that we're working on that there's, back and forth. But Colin is doing amazing work. And what the stuff that he has on tap for the Sustainable Development DAO is not only is Harmony as a sharded proof of stake chain really light with its carbon footprint, if the projects that the Sustainable DAO accomplishes come to fruition, we will be carbon negative. And we will be able to start showing the way in which blockchains can assist in the carbon sequestration and carbon credit transfers in a transparent and reliable way that blockchain gives us, and an immutable, that whole concept can be super powerful. And that's one of the things that he's working on. So please go find the Sustainable Development DAO on Twitter, follow him, follow Colin, tell him that you love him and he's amazing, because he should hear that every single day. The one other one I wanted to flag really quick, also not a core DAO, is the Bridge Builder DAO, doing great work from Dylan. And honestly, they are building stuff and they're getting out there and they're answering questions and dealing with bounties, and they're doing some really good things. So I'm really happy about Dylan and his teams and his community's work there in the Bridge Builder DAO. I haven't mentioned the Ambassador DAO because I'm not sure if the Ambassador DAO is a core DAO or if it's a not core DAO, but the Ambassador DAO is doing a lot of great things too. They're holding events, they're doing some really good stuff. So, the various different team members, and who you are, who are participating in the Ambassador DAO, I cannot say enough about that team. They're really doing a lot of good work.
Thank you. And this question is a little bit tricky, but we try to ask the difficult questions as well. This was from a community member on Reddit. So they mentioned, well, I've reworded the question. So there's been a lot of public outcry regarding DAO grants and standard grants which have been issued, some which have been given funds, which has caused Harmony to be accused of virtual signaling. Do you think this hold any weight, or is there a reason why Harmony funds certain projects or requests for funds that don't seem to have any correlation to blockchain?
That's a good question. And I've seen this come up because, I say this often, but I'm always reading and I'm always listening to the community. And this has come up several times about whether or not we are virtue signaling. The answer is I hate virtue signaling. I absolutely hate it. I like virtue. I hate virtue signaling. A lot of the times when you see stuff in virtue signaling, they forget the virtue part and just do the signaling part. But talking about this, the reason why people think that this is true is because these people who have a cause are some of the most enthusiastic people out there. So if you talk about bringing women into blockchain, the people who want to bring women into blockchain, those women are incredibly passionate and enthusiastic about that mission. And so you know that they are going to participate on making that mission be accomplished. And that's why something like that can get a fund, whereas something that people aren't that enthusiastic about may not get a fund, right? It's not about whether or not it's a virtue signal. It's like, oh yeah, we're diverse. We have, all of these other things that we're doing, veganism or whatever it is. The point is that these communities are enthusiastic, and a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, is structured to capture that enthusiasm, hopefully in a more effective way than other organizational types. Whether or not that's successful, that's a thesis that we're all testing right now in the blockchain space. And there's going to be a lot of things that go sideways during that process, which is why, in general, these funds are very, very limited. You're talking $10,000, which can be a lot to some, but it's not a lot to an organization. So I'll pause there and see if Lee has anything also to add.
Sounds good, Sam.
Lee, I love you so much. See, this is the situation you get in an AMA with Lee and I. It's like, I love to talk. Lee never says anything.
Only if I strongly disagree.
So with the next point, this has been raised in a recent AMA with some core team members. So we did discuss, when you attend events, you sometimes speak to people that are requesting funding, and you may bring them into the kind of the inner circle in a way and have discussions about what they're trying to achieve and if Harmony is the best place to do that. We understand a lot of conversations happen in the backgrounds, and sometimes when their funding proposal goes up, their funding proposal gets put through very quickly. And from the outside, a lot of community members are very frustrated how some projects seem to get funded very quickly without much information. Can someone just explain like some of the processes that go in to these types of funding requests and what information is looked over before they're approved?
Sure. So I think all the funding requests go through the forum. And I think the crux of your question, and we've seen this as well from the community, is, someone, we meet some team at an event, they get to spend maybe a lot of time with us in that event, and we get to really know them. And so there's like this, there's a lot of context that we have about that project that we'll say, oh, this is really a great team. Everyone still has to go through the forum, they still have to go through the process. So for ETH Denver and maybe Rio in particular, right, we had what we call Project X, Project Y, which was basically forming small teams within shards within our team, where we would go and look for projects to fund. And I think maybe the sentiment is like, oh, if a project is not able to attend an event, we won't get funding. I think really it's like, we of course have to keep doing that. Like someone actually said, oh, can you not do that at events? And the answer, unfortunately, is no, we cannot. we won't stop doing that. It would be detrimental to growing the ecosystem, right? These are the places where the most concentrated number of builders, you can actually see what they're building. You get through a lot of the noise, but it does not mean that a project can't just write a proposal on the forum in the same way, right? The criteria has to be the same. It's just that maybe they got funding first because they were at this event and we met them. But we're going as global as possible, as diverse in terms of where we go, so that it becomes something that's more accessible to everybody to even meet with the core team, or meet with the fellows, meet with the contributors. I see Give on this call. I'm not going to ask them to speak, but we are also in the process of coming up with more ways to have the community scout projects so that the community can just decide which projects to fund rather than even us doing it as the core team. So over time, much more of the funding will just be decided by people, maybe even people on this call will bring us projects. And last thing I'll mention is we're running a grant quadratic matching with Dora Hacks. So they will be marketing and helping onboard projects that we will ask the community to fund. And if the community is funding those projects, we'll actually match the funding for that. So there are many ways in which we will get more of the community involved as well, and making sure that if you missed us at one event, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Just write on the forum, and someone will actually try to get to inbox zero on that every week in terms of responding to everybody.
Thank you. And just leading on from that, is there any plans to leave these proposals on talk for longer so community can submit their input to get a gauge if people actually want this on Harmony?
Yeah, so we really ask every potential grantee to engage the community, and they're like, I think some of them have done a good job. So you have the whole spectrum, right? Some just don't do much marketing for themselves. Other people you see what we call brigading in the forum, where all of a sudden there's 100 new accounts that have never written on our forum and they pop up and say something supportive. So it's not a perfect system, but I think having like true thoughtful community engagement is very helpful, and it is what we need. But at the same time, there's no moderation on the forum. It's really as open as we can possibly make it, right? Other than like potential harassment and things like that. That we take everything into account, but weigh it based on the quality of the content, I suppose.
Yeah. And there've been calls for a select few to have Harmony stop focusing on DAOs and focus more on tech. The optic is that Harmony has stopped focusing on blockchain. Can you share your opinion on this?
Okay. So I think that's a fair point only from the outside. That we are building like I think the thing that Sam said is actually very true. Is like sometimes that's not the most visible thing, that it's not the most exciting thing. Like people are not on Twitter sharing GitHub pull requests, right? It's just, but if you follow our GitHub repos, you can see, all of our engineers working every day on making improvements. So I think we can do a better job. It's of course on us. The onus is on us to do a better job of kind of summarizing all the technical progress and communicating it out to the community. So this past month on harmony.one/April, on our April deliverables, our CTO RJ and our VP of engineering Leo actually wrote a full protocol roadmap, a full decentralization a network roadmap. So that's definitely, we hear you loud and clear, and that's an area where we're going to be writing and communicating more. And in fact, actually, I can share on this Twitter space. Basically, like our hiring is for full-time team. It's primarily only on engineering at this point. For business, we actually just mostly work with fellows and contributors, if not externalize the project. So like the focus has never really changed where we spend our resource. I think what we can do much better is communicating like what's been happening and where are the technical progress being made and what does it even mean? Because if someone says we're going to re-architect like this part of the protocol, we have to explain that so that the even the average like person in crypto understands what that means. So yeah, I think yeah, really good point. We hear your feedback, and we'll do a much better job of communicating our technical progress.
Fantastic. And just a side note, so we've had recently RJ, Leo, we've had Give Up and Daniel Pagan. So anyone that wants to listen back to these AMAs with the team talking about what they've been working on recently, it's super, super insightful. They give some amazing information, and really, really interesting to hear all the stuff that the guys have been doing. So you'll find them on our Twitter page, on the Community DAO Twitter page, or on the tweets at the top. So if we can shift over to Sam, thank you, Lee. So there was a slight pause on Harmony funding for by DAO operations until the 1st of May. Can I just ask the reasoning behind that?
This is actually across all kind of financial decisions.
Okay.
So it was all grants, it was all hiring, all new contributors. It was all put on pause. Mainly, the rationale here is we were getting a little bit too far ahead of our skis, right? We had such a huge burst of activity during ETH Denver and right after ETH Denver that we weren't doing enough onboarding for the new contributors. That wasn't happening well enough. The grants were flowing very, very rapidly and quickly, but there wasn't being enough time. We were swamped with the due diligence of the new grantees and not doing enough due diligence on the grantees that had just received their grants, right? We weren't doing enough follow-up and making sure the reporting comes in. So that's one of the things that we really need to make sure that we take that awareness. And that's why the pause happened, is just being aware of that.
I can certainly appreciate that. So we did, you did discuss this earlier on the download call on Twitter Spaces. How much have we actually spent so far on DAOs so far?
That's an excellent question. So there have been a handful of tweets that have come out that were either written in an ambiguous way or just incorrect. Since let's see, it's July of last year, we have approved $6 million, just over $6 million of grants for DAOs. The amount that's actually gone out of our treasury into DAOs, because again, these are all milestone-based payments, is actually only $4 million in roughly this year. Since the beginning of January, that's only been about $1 million. So it's just over $1 million. So that's the amount of money that we've actually spent on DAOs entirely. Spent is maybe the amount of money that we've donated, we've granted, we've provided to the DAOs.
Perfect. And some community members claim that funding of DAOs and projects have a negative effect on price action due to sell pressure. Have you heard this opinion, and do you have any feedback or insight to share about this?
I have heard this opinion, and I actually had to go and attend Google University for a little bit to try and figure out what the definition of sell pressure is, because it could be true that if what we're doing is providing one tokens to somebody who immediately liquidates them into US dollars, there's sell pressure there. The only problem I have is, on average, the volume of trading that happens for Harmony is between $30 and $60 million on a daily basis. And so I don't understand how $1 million since January spread out over 4 or 5 months can create sell pressure against $30 to $60 million in a given day. Also, even if we gave all of the $6 million that we've done over a year, how that could actually add to sell pressure. Partly it's because I don't like my understanding of the actual definition of sell pressure may not be sufficient to answer this question well, but it doesn't, from a mathematics sense, it doesn't make any sense to me how that would work. I don't know, Brick, if you have further information about what actually qualifies as quote unquote sell pressure, Love to hear it.
It was actually one I see very often and one I try to challenge because I've never believed that. You know, you look at the volume on any kind of major exchange and you know that the numbers just don't add up there. But I did want to address that because I have seen a few people mention that. So yeah, I'm with you there,
No,
Sam.
I agree. I agree that, like, I've seen it, and I understand the concern because a lot of people are, the issue is we come out with news, we come out with something great like the Bitcoin bridge, and then the price action isn't what we expected, and so people are looking for a reason why, and because they don't see value, they don't see the monetary value of DAOs, they want to use that as a scapegoat for it, and I get that, I understand that. I just don't think that the evidence backs that up.
Fantastic. And this question was for Lee. So the community has voiced frustration that DAOs have received 50 million allocation from the ecosystem fund versus 20 million for project launches. Can you tell the community why launches are receiving less than 50% of DAOs? Do you feel this needs to be rebalanced to bring more dApps to the chain?
So let me answer that in two ways. One is the scope is really like it's a projection, right? Like it is. I think people read that and say, "Oh, you're going to exactly spend this much." It's really not what we want. It's really what the community and what the market tell us will be the final answer, right? Of course, I can say that like we made a strong statement on DAOs and on funding DAOs as well. And the way I think about it is they're not in conflict, meaning like dApps can form DAOs and DAOs are dApps too. Like I think people get way too hung up, and I have a very strong view. Like I have probably the strongest view on about why we are in the DAO space. But like I actually think if you look at the last, how much time do we have left? 3 minutes. Okay. So I really think that DAOs become the form factor for all kinds of organizations in the 21st century. Meaning, yeah, there will be corporations, there'll be LLCs, but for Web3 native, what is the way to organize people to work together globally without borders? You can transfer the tokens without worrying about which entity you're setting up in which legal jurisdiction. Like DAOs will be something that will be as amazing, like for humanity, as LLCs, corporations, or even countries, right? It's just that we're so early that people may not see it that way, may see DAOs with a certain connotation, whereas I think you can think of it more as a broader, like much broader category of describing it. So just because we're funding DAOs does not mean that those DAOs cannot be DeFi products or NFT collections or whatever other applications, right? That they can bring in many more applications as well. So all of that is just to say while they are different categories, the goal of the whole thing is actually just to onboard more applications and more talent into Web3. So yeah, I'm actually, so I don't know. I may not give the best answer to this question because I don't think this is the right question to ask or the right way. It's a false dichotomy to ask, but that's my answer.
Thank you, Lee. And there have been concerns from the communities that DAOs are not self-sustaining and that current DAOs on Harmony are struggling to find success in sustainability. Because of this, there are growing concerns that Harmony is not ready to decentralize as they plan to by 2016. Does Harmony still believe in the 10,000 DAOs, and do you think 2016 is too early to achieve this?
Yes. So I can answer. I'd love to hear Sam as well. So the 10,000 DAOs is really about enabling that order of magnitude. Well, first of all, as I said in the beginning, right, it's not like we're going to count all the way up to 10,000. There'll be DAOs permissionlessly launched in Harmony that we won't even know about. but it's the idea of that's the order of magnitude that we're thinking about scaling this ecosystem. And by 2026, maybe the number 10,000 will look small to you, because 4 years ago when we started, like if I asked someone there would be 10,000 apps, right? Like you might look at me like I'm crazy back then. Now it's the same. 10,000 DAOs, like once we have all the DAO tools, once it becomes almost easy, like one click start a DAO, like how many Facebook groups are there on Facebook, right? Like it might seem like a trivial number, if not 4 years, 10 years from now, to be thinking about being the platform, being the open blockchain that thousands of DAOs can launch on. And I think that's really where, that's, as I said, like DAOs is a way of organizing all human activity in the 21st century. If you want to think of that way, there will of course be other details about how they get formed and how they're structured. But yeah, if you think about the current, like it's like when someone asks the CEO of IBM in 1950 how many computers, he's like, I think the world really needs like 2 computers. It's because computers back then were entire room full of a giant machine. But if you can think about how DAOs can evolve and change and be broadly applicable to any group that you want to form, any sort of human coordination, then it makes sense. Then you break out of the current connotation what a DAO is, and you can think about what can 10,000 DAOs mean for the world.
Thank you again for that, Lee. So this is for... carry on,
Brick,
Sam.
I just wanted to add really quickly there. The goal isn't actually for Harmony to fund 10,000 DAOs, but that Harmony will be the home for 10,000 DAOs, right? And this piece right here is a big difference, because what that means is that we're building the infrastructure to support the future of work, the future of organization. And that is vital. Anyway, I just wanted to flag that really quick.
I think that... sorry, carry on, Harmony.
If I may, I'm just getting a few messages on this regarding this question. Could you speak a little bit more about the moving to decentralized operations and treasuries into DAOs in a realistic timeline? And if you think it's realistic to do that by 2026, or if maybe plans have been adjusted in some way, or could you speak a little bit more on the decentralization aspect?
So before Lee, I'll let Lee kind of dig into the meat of it, but I just wanted to point out here that the goal of a decentralized ledger is to be decentralized. Like Ethereum is kind of there, right? And so the goal is for us to get to that level where not only is the protocol and the validators decentralized, which we accomplished toward the tail end of last year, but now the next kind of locus of power, or the next kind of place where decisions can be made, which is through financing, also gets decentralized. And that's kind of the idea there, right? But let me stop there and just let Lee kind of take it over and dig into the meat of that question.
Well, I think you basically hit the high notes. So maybe you can ask the question, like what specifically you're trying to ask again. I want to make sure I hit the right point.
There's been discussion about moving all operations and treasuries into DAOs.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a progressive process. Like if you look at again, as Sam mentioned, Ethereum ecosystem, it's thriving because it is so decentralized that the Ethereum Foundation, that single entity, is not going to make or break that network, right? Like if tomorrow, aliens had abducted everyone from the Ethereum Foundation, like Ethereum would just keep going and humming along. And that's the state that we want to get to, where it is like the management of the treasury and all the operations is done by like the ecosystem. Now, one thing is that does not mean that everybody on the team is not involved. It means that we may be part of DAOs, that the team itself could become a not to say it's a team DAO. It could be multiple DAOs that are formed by this initial group of people. Just like actually, again, Ethereum, like the founding group at Ethereum eventually is now dispersed throughout the ecosystem, and it's actually making it much. It's made it grow much faster and in a much more sustainable, robust way than having at the end of the day, one or two, or even a small number of teams that support the network, right? Like we've been saying this phrase, strength in numbers. It's really strength in the diversity and the entire community that it would be crazy for us to think that like we will always be the ones who have the right people and team to support this ecosystem, that like everybody on this call, right? The community DAO, the hosts, so many of you guys listening here would become the leaders of this entire ecosystem and create something that we may have never even thought of. And that would be the beauty of what we're doing.
Thank you. And there have been many talks regarding community sentiment from some of the core team members that have been up following Sean's community sentiment report. We've seen the initial response from the core team to follow this. Can we ask, though, what do you think some of the biggest lessons learned so far following this report has been?
So yeah, I think that's a good point. And Give and Peter are listening here. So it's really for us to communicate better. And I think all the points in the sentiment report are more around. There's an overarching theme, which is, can you explain what is happening with these things, right? I think the sentiment is not so much like, oh, we don't agree with everything you're doing. It's more like, can you explain why you're doing this? And if we do a better job, which we started implementing actually in April with weekly blog and as well as the weekly video, where we actually go through different topics, why we're well, same on this call, right? Like Daniel has been great setting up all these conversations so that everyone in the community does know what we're doing, and whether you agree or disagree with a certain like specific initiative, that at least you understand our rationale, and you can see that we're doing it based on the best evaluation that we have of this initiative. So I think that's the biggest thing we learned, is just to be much more communicative and knowing what kind of communication the community wants from us, that will fulfill that our end of the promise, to always be in direct contact with everyone here.
Fantastic. And with so much being said recently on forums when we've been asking for community feedback, do you think there's any kind of major misconceptions that the community have that simply, are just kind of misunderstood?
I think the biggest one, I think we addressed a little bit, which was the difference between, the 40 million that has been given out in grants overall, the entire ecosystem, including stuff like DeFi Kingdoms and Aave and Sushi Swap and Curve, versus how much we've actually spent on DAOs. And I think we addressed that pretty well.
Perfect. And just before we open the floor for some questions from the community, is there anything that we haven't discussed today, Leo, Sam, that you wanted to perhaps mention?
Well, I think, it's great to be doing these on a weekly basis, and we're just really excited that it's still very early days in all of Web3 growth. That all these frictions or questions, or even things that people don't understand. It's all part of the process, right? It's all I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, which they say in it, they say the obstacle is the way. Like, as we are all pioneers in this space, and as we try new initiatives and like really build a world that we want, there will always be diversity of opinions, if not different approaches, and that's okay. That's great. Like, let's talk about them. Let's all and the beauty is that maybe we can both like take the approach that we think is right and build together. That's what we mean when we say create wealth and harmony.
The one other thing that I just wanted to, and I've been reiterating this all morning, two different things actually. Number one, I want to make sure that what DAOs are about, one of the things that's so important for us always to remember is the level of transparency that we need to have when we work in DAOs, when we receive funding, when we do actions, all that stuff. We have to be very, very clear about what it is we're doing and why it is we're doing it. So the whole concept behind mandates, deliverables, and metrics are supposed to drive that level of transparency. The other thing is in general, and this is true throughout the entire grant program, even though we may have approved something like 40 million in funding, these are all based on milestone payments. They're retroactive grants. And this is also true now with DAOs, where to be able to get actual tokens in your multi-sig wallet, you have to accomplish something. So it's not just, here's another 75 because you wrote some pretty words. Like, there have been DAOs that we haven't funded a second tranche because they haven't issued a report, because they haven't finished a milestone. And that should continue to be true, because that is the accountability. That is how we want to be good stewards for the community's treasury and the community's assets and the community's faith and believing and support. So yeah, I just wanted to flag that and mention that very quickly.
Thank you so much. And I think Lee possibly had to shoot, so if he does have to go, I just want to thank Lee for coming along today and answering these questions for us. We really appreciate your time today, Lee. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you hopefully next month, and talk to everyone soon.
Thank you, Lee. And I'm not sure if you have to go as well, Sam, but what I will say, if anyone of the DAO Ops team want to pop up here as well, just maybe if they have anything to discuss, then feel free to request a mic, guys. And if any community members have any questions, then please request a mic, and we'll have you up here to ask a few questions if you wish.
I don't have to go yet, so I'm happy to answer some questions. I'm actually, this week I was taking some personal time, and I am here all day today to answer these questions about DAOs. We had that Twitter Spaces this morning, and then we also have this Twitter Space, and then the AMA on Reddit that I'll be answering as soon as I finish here.
Fantastic. And I believe Nick has a question.
Yeah. Hey everyone. Actually, I wanna say, first of all, thank you to Sam and to Lee for answering all that amazing questions which came from the community. And Sam, I think it's definitely should be addressed to you. And what I want you to focus right now, telling us about Harmony DAO Vision, is to touch also a very important narrative there about regional DAOs. Can you tell us a little bit more what are regional DAOs for Harmony right now, and how do they correlate in that huge vision of 10,000 DAOs by 2026? I ask this question only because of so many people attending this AMA, and from my experience with Amsterdam last week, even in Amsterdam, I found people from different countries who are really interested to participate with Harmony, and definitely to participate in the frame of regional DAOs. They don't know a lot about that, and what I'm doing right now, I'm educating them. about was what is regional DAO, how it's really similar to the community type of DAO, and so. But Sam, can you please give us a overall understanding for regional DAOs right now?
Well, Nick, I think that you're doing a great job with how you're guiding people through the regional DAO process. And just so people kind of understand what this is about, is DAOs are a place where community can come together. But a lot of the times, if, for example, I'm in the south of France and I don't speak English and I want to learn how to set up a validator, I have to figure out how to get the French translation of the English Harmony docs to be able to set up a validator. That's one of the things that regional DAOs do, is they will help do the translation of the critical documentation that needs to be shared with a bunch of these local regions. And so we don't end up having, the Harmony core team can focus on kind of the core operations. And then we can have people who speak Swahili and French and German and Canadian, because that's different language than English. It's not, but it's a joke. Like they can actually get in there and do that. Now, how they fit into the larger aspect is communities are the bedrock upon which blockchains are built. And that means we have to have mechanisms where these communities can come together. We have places that they can come physically in person to ask questions about news, to get informed, to meet other people, to have like a business person meet a developer at a coffee shop that they're like, oh, I need to do this. This is a great idea, but I don't have any technical skills. And then at that meetup, they're like, oh, I don't have a project, but I know how to code Solidity, the best person in the world. And they come together and they build something. We have to give a space for those fortuitous collisions to take place. And that's part of what the regional DAOs will help us accomplish. And also amplifying regional events. We can't be everywhere. To Lee's point that he mentioned earlier, if we were trying to be at every single blockchain event in the world all the time, we would never actually be at our desks working. We would always be on planes. But if we have local advocates, local ambassadors, people who are in Miami, people who are in Paris, people who are in Berlin or in Tokyo, that can attend these local events, that can throw local events themselves for very, very small ones. I don't want to like set up parties all around the world, but I want to make sure that people have an opportunity to participate and interact with other harmonauts, other wonders is the new phrase that I started using this morning. That is super important. And that's kind of one of the roles, one of the organizing forces of a regional DAO. I don't know, Nick, does that help? I know that, like you said, like you have been doing a lot of work on regional DAOs, and I just wanted to make sure that I answered that question well.
No, Sam, actually, this is not the question, especially to me. I wanted you to share this idea with people who attend in this AMA, because I totally support this. And what I can add from my side is just like that we definitely assume regional DAOs, like in, let's say, embassies, bridges, open gates to harmony in a specific area, in a specific country, maybe on a specific language area, like Latin DAO or something like that. Yeah. So just like, yes, we definitely need that people who are in that cities, countries, continents can share the values of harmony together with us, and yes, bring more people together who are definitely, like you say, it could be business developers and Solidity developers, but they're not connected yet. They don't know how to participate in this blockchain world right now, or which to choose, and if they choose harmony. So just like, yeah, this is amazing, and this is what original DAOs are doing right now. Yeah, thank you, Sam, for this very good answer.
Thank you. And also, I will mention, there are some things that we need to be very careful about, things like the LATAM DAO, like the Africa DAO, like several other regional DAOs, that they are communities of that location, of those people, that are interested in that specific thing. Because there has been, and since this is an AMA, there has been significant criticism about some of these DAOs where the people or the members of the DAO don't actually represent the individuals that they're claiming that they represent. We have to be super cautious about that. It's one of the things that I'm very, very sensitive to. But it's also one of the things that I have as a white mid upper class American. I don't have a lot of feet to stand on about speaking directly to it. But I do want to caution us all about any sort of cultural appropriation, about any sort of like stepping on anybody else's toes, but also let's make sure we keep everything very, very civil. We need to stay civil and we need to stay adult about a lot of this stuff. Anyway, I may have just kicked over a hornet's nest with those comments.
Thank you for your question, Nick. And Vitravius, I think, was next.
Hey Samuel, first of all, congratulations on running a successful campaign of DAOs on Harmony. So my question was that isn't is the case that Harmony just rushed too early with their initiative with the DAO, and they didn't give an enough check thought process on creating appropriate check and balances to make sure that the funds are utilized and in a appropriate way. Also, what is the current? You said that you are not supporting many proposals which have not delivered their second milestone. So, what is the ratio between those who have successfully completed their mandates and those who are not successfully completed their mandates? So, there are two questions from my side.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Can you restate the first question again really quickly? I didn't quite understand what that question was. I can definitely answer the second one as far as the ratio of, well, I can talk to the ratio of DAOs that are completing their mandates versus DAOs that are still working on it.
Yeah, so my first question was that as of now, Harmony is coming up with initiatives like tooling and DAO reporting. This should be given the first thought when the DAO initiative has was launched. So, is there any gap in the logical sequencing of this DAO initiative, and how would you cover that gap? Because the things are already in place. Yeah.
Yeah, so throwing the mind back to about a year ago when DAO started getting big, the common understanding of what a DAO was, a minimally viable DAO at the time, was three things: a multi-sig wallet, a Telegram chat room, and that was actually it. Oh, a snapshot instance. That was the third one. So basically what it was you had a common asset, you had a way to vote, and you had a way to communicate. We allowed that to start off as our DAO journey as we started having conversations and digging in very substantially into what sort of pain points DAOists would encounter. And that's why the tooling and the reporting, the tools, came a little bit later. From day one, we have always said that the reporting, the peer-based reporting, timesheets, all of that stuff was a vital component of a DAO. You can look back at the very, very first instance of the 300 million ecosystem grant program and how it specifically has timesheets as a requirement as far as reporting goes. So that's been there. Whether or not we put a huge emphasis on it, it was neither here nor there. To be completely honest, it is. There has been a lot of work and a lot of focus being put on let's get enough of these DAOs set up so that we can have a good sample size of what works and what doesn't work. Because just because something works really well in one DAO with one set of people doesn't mean that it can transfer over to a second DAO with a second set of people. And in fact, we've seen 2 or 3 times that exactly did not work. We thought we'd learned the lesson, then we tried to apply it somewhere else, and it did not work. So that's that. As far as mandates, deliverables, and metrics, there the numbers I don't have clear right at the top of my fingertips, but out of the 8,500-ish DAOs that are currently operating on Harmony, about 30 to 35 have actually received funding from the core team. Of those, I would actually say maybe 10 to 15 have gotten, maybe not even that much, have gotten a second tranche of funding. And part of that is because like these core metrics, these core deliverables weren't accomplished. So that's hard, right? Because it's really hard to go out there and say, no, we can't fund you the second tranche because you haven't accomplished what you said you're going to do with the first tranche. Because they're like, but we worked really hard. It's like, yeah, you did, but you didn't accomplish what you said you were going to accomplish. Which means that I don't know if we give you more money, if that would actually accomplish now what you couldn't accomplish last time with the money that we provided. So that's where we kind of, we have to find a nice balance, and it's hard. It's not self-evident. It's difficult.
Thank you for that question. And I think Chaotic is next.
Hey, Sam. Thanks to everybody. Hey, good to see you. Good to hear from you. I'm happy to be here. So, I've been working with Bridge Builders. We've been volunteer based since the beginning. So I can give you some of my own feedback. No criticism. I think what you're trying to do as a team is extremely difficult and it's extremely big, right? And so there's a lot of things that I feel like DAOs can do and to provide as far as feedback is, how is it that we maintain the team that we have as a DAO? And I would say maybe sometimes we didn't reach the deliverable because, in DAO, if people can't commit to certain things at certain times, certain deliverables don't reach their end goal or their end results. So it's been much easier for us to actually just say, hey, you group of people, you do this deliverable. Do you want to do this? And then going to other people and saying this and this. So really kind of like objectives that are small but attainable that can be handed to DAOs would be very nice, because there's a lot of needs and there's a lot of requirements for all the DAOs to be successful, to kind of unite as one, to work together and coalesce as a huge organization. But it's a little hard to know what project and what things we want to work on. And I know there's been a few times where you've reached out to me personally and said, hey, let's jump on a call. But we never had the time or the management to actually sit down and figure things out. And I know you have a DAO ops team, but even still, scheduling times and figuring out what's important, what's not important, what's worth my time to make sure that it's good for everybody is a little hard to, to scope out and to really reason. And so, part of my question is also the sentiment of we really want to help, but there's just some things we don't know what to help with, where our talents really align. So can you explain how it is that, or actually what is it that you need more from people who are in the ecosystem working to figure out some of these things, what to deliver? Is there any kind of reports as far as like, these are some of our vanity goals, because we do have vanity metrics. We want to make sure we hit 100 DAOs that are super successful, but we don't know what to actually start doing at times, if you see what I'm saying.
I do. Let me answer a couple, because there are a couple of questions built into that question. So the first thing is the One DAO Alliance actually is going to help out this process a lot, because what this gives us the opportunity to do is have a regular conversation with the various different representatives of the various different DAOs to understand what they're encountering, what they're working on, and where they need help. And also to highlight their successes and come together about finding the places where they are running into a challenge. So that's definitely going to happen, and the whole One DAO Alliance will help answer that question. The second question about what it is that you can do. There are a couple of things that we're working on to facilitate and make this easier. But at the end of the day, one of the hardest things for a new Taoist to learn how to do is that difference between I show up on Monday morning at my 9 to 5 and I have an inbox of things that I'm supposed to do, that I finish task by task by task, put it in my outbox, and then I go home at 5 p.m. That's not how Taoists work, right? The Taoists work by coming into an organization or coming into a conversation, seeing all the talks, and somebody saying, hey, you know what we could really need? We could really use this widget to be, we could really use the one wallet to be deployed on Android as well. What do we need to accomplish that? Who can we bring in? Can I do it? And have people kind of raise their hand and say, I will pick up a shovel to do this. That mentality of looking around and seeing what needs to be done, raising your hand and saying, I will do it, that is one of the most valuable aspects of a Taoist. That character trait right there.
Can I quickly speak to that? And that whole like what can we bring? We found that it was much easier to find some of those things by venturing into other ecosystems. So our little DAO is experimenting with trying to find what are other DAOs, other foundations doing that is successful, that's bringing on people in a successful manner. So what we're doing is saying, hey, let's partner with as many foundations. So we have Scale, Fendora, we're working with Tanaka, we're working with Liquidity DAO. And what we're doing is adventuring out and finding the right bounty hunters from different ecosystems and bringing them into Harmony for certain projects. But what I'm having a hard time doing is saying, here are the projects that you need to build, and these are the things that could possibly get funded. And I'm not guaranteeing anything, and I've been telling everybody that. So it's just seeing some, bounties that the Harmony Foundation wants that are attainable can definitely happen, so that we can bring in interest and bring in developers to actually start building the things that we want to build. And that's kind of what I wanted to point to, is that, for now there are other ways around it, but I don't necessarily know if it's the best approach in all matters of things. I just wanted to quickly bring that up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually the same kind of process that the DAO operations team has gone, right? We listen to our DAOists and say, okay, what are the things that you are encountering that makes it difficult to be in a DAO? And we see those. But then we also go out to other ecosystems and we say, oh, okay, this tool and that tool is well used. Let's make sure that we can bring that over. And so we work really hard to do that. And then we are trying to incentivize usages of these tools so that you can actually see the activation there. Now, the other thing that as far as seeing what needs to be done, this is actually one of the things that we are currently reviewing internally, and we do this every quarter. We actually do this probably almost every month, is figuring out, the areas which can have an impact on the ecosystem as a whole. And that is everything from saying, hey, we need to improve the blockchain explorer. We need to improve the multi-sig contract. We need to improve the RPCs. How do we do that in a way that is scalable and financially responsible? We need to do all of these various different things that, from a technological perspective, is core to making sure the platform of Harmony doesn't collapse under the weight of all the adoption that DAOs want to drive to it. So when you're working in a DAO and you see something like, oh, geez, I really wish that our Explorer had this functionality. I really wish that the multi-sig had this functionality. This is something that we don't have yet, and I'm really trying hard to figure out the best way to do it, is the way for somebody like you, Dylan, to post into GitHub and say, hey, here's an issue. I want to do this, this, and this. I think that it's worth, $1,000 if I build this solution. Can I get an approval from the people who are running the bounties for Harmony to do this as a bounty and then merge it into the protocol? That is my dream. That is the dream of an open source project, right? And that's what I want to see.
Right.
And so answer your question.
Yeah, but we also wanted to see if maybe there were administrators from the foundation that can just post them into the individual channels themselves rather than having the organization that might not be there at the right time, because DAOs are constantly flowing in with new people all the time. So to keep people up to date, sometimes the foundation is a little bit more, I would say, like foundationally stronger, and a little bit more well kept than, say, like a brand new DAO that is community based, because of the fact that people have their own lives, 9 to 5s, and they're doing a lot of this is like outside of work, and so kind of like picking up the saddle after the 3 months is over is kind of like the huge pain point that I feel like we're facing, where it's, when we get new people, it's what do they have to know before they actually enter this DAO. And so, some DAOs, I would say, just need to be a little bit more specific with what are the requirements to be an active contributor to this system for
Ooh.
which they are actually working in. Because, like, I just joined the Liquidity DAO, but I'm having to pick up like a month's worth of information, or no, a year's worth of information in like maybe a few weeks, and it was really hard. And in doing that, it's like, well, how do I help this? How do I help at all? Actually, it feels like, do I have to know all these complicated developer things, or, and is there such thing as a community bounty where I can just come really quickly into the thing and just start immediately actively contributing? And those were the difference, was like developer bounties versus like community bounties. And both, I mean, I would say most community members want to actually contribute, all of them, but they just don't know how to. And it's a little bit vague with what these DAOs exactly want to accomplish within their given timelines and what's attainable for anybody to actually kind of come on to concur. So I would say that's kind of like my roundabout thing. It's not an issue. It's just, this is all
That's a
discovery.
big question. Yeah.
Sam,
You
I kind
And
of
understand?
honestly, this is
relief right
actually, oh, Chalk, you beat me to it, man. I was just going to say, hey, wait, is Chalk on the spaces? Because this is actually specifically the reason why I brought Chalk into the DAO operations team, was because what we need is a really good onboarding process for new DAOs, for new DAOists, right? We need a way that somebody can come and learn, what does it mean to do DAO, to be in a DAO, but also if I'm coming into the Bridge Builders DAO, or if I'm coming into the Developer DAO, or whatever it is, how can I get up to speed with the ongoing conversation? Which actually goes back to another one of the things that I've talked about multiple times. When we talk about shared assets inside of a DAO, we're not just talking about you have a common multi-sig with a treasury. Another asset is information. And so every DAO needs to make sure that they figure out a way to have that information shared amongst everybody in the DAO. So as a new DAO person comes into that DAO, they can find a friend, they can find the repository of information that will bring them up to speed in a very, too long didn't read sort of a way. And that is their process of onboarding. I'll pause there and let Chalk take it, because this is his baby. It's an ugly baby, but it's his baby. I'm kidding, Chalk. I love you, man.
Yeah, you know how ugly babies go, and so the whole thing is this, and I appreciate you saying.
Zing.
We've heard. I'm just playing, player. We've heard your It's a problem. I think it's a giant problem, honestly. And so to brush over it wouldn't be, and just know that that's been the foremost focus of this one DAO alliance is that education on multiple levels. So the first layer being um, into the DAO ecosystem. The second layer being into the categorical DAOs that are going along with that, and then the third layer being that specific DAO that you enter. We've got a process that consists of DAO tools that we've recruited. Big shout out to DoDAO, big shout out to DAO Lens, where that process is now going to be automated. It'll be reward based. As far as like the speed in which you go through it, it'll be on chain, showing you when that's completed to the DAO members that dish out the responsibilities and contributors, and it'll be highly focused um, on converting the workload from the 9 signatories for a DAO down to the community of a DAO within the timeline of a term or a couple of terms, so that the community is supporting the DAO and also has the availability for income distribution. It's a very, very strong point, I think, for growing healthy, sustainable DAOs, because if somebody's not educated on a DAO, the first month or two, as you alluded to, are spent doing the wrong activities or just searching for information that should be there. So hopefully, within a 2-day period of time, a 3-day period of time after entering a DAO, really ideally within an hour or two, but within a couple of days, as long as they're putting in the effort to go through these integrated quizzes and hyper engaged guidebooks, that they'll be able to get the full gist of a DAO, be verified that they've gone through this information so that everybody is aware of the fact that everybody's on the same page, and then they can be prepared to work between that and basic DAO in a very, very short amount of time off the top. And so thank you so much, Chaotic, for addressing that elephant in the room. And just know that I've been working very hard, Rachel's been working very hard, and the rest of the DAO Ops team has been working very hard, along with Maddie. I don't want to overlook that at all, because Basic DAO is about to do something really revolutionary too that we've been working on. And so, yes, big points, big solutions.
Yeah, so I posted like a little, like an all DAO dashboard that we've been kind of always working on in the link on the top of this chat, so you can kind of see what I'm alluding to, where it's like a kind of like an all-in-one dashboard, because we in the DAO ops team that we have on our Bridge Builder side is we have a single email, and that Gmail has all the different dashboards, so it's easier for them to align. But then putting out the education is a huge part. I totally agree. I love what you're doing. I have to run. I love you guys. I will talk to you later, and this is great. Like, I'm really happy you guys held this space, so this is great. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have Mr. Dollar Signs has a question.
Hi, thank you guys for having me so much. I've been in Harmony One for a long time. I also am a founder of DGens for a Brighter Future at DGens FBF. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we interview professionals, and it's a lot of fun. Anyhow, with my shameless shill out of the way, so I've been, I love Harmony. I love the tech, the 2-second finality, how fast it is, how easy it is to use. And I also participate in several other blockchains, and have had opportunities to speak with different developers from different chains. And I think I wanted to ask about, and I know I just came a little bit late to this, so you might have already spoken a little bit about this. So what I'm curious about, I think right now, when retail has left the market, I think that overall what chains are fighting for at the moment is the TVL that's already present. The 208 billion of people that are playing around with games, DeFi, NFTs, and so on, that are just circulating through the market, but not as much of that liquidity is entering anymore. And when I look at, say, for example, Phantom, we dig into, they did a similar fund. I don't know which one of you did it first, but there was a similar fund to bring in, I suppose it was developers as well. And they used around 300 million. They just launched another initiative for over 400 million, specifically geared to NFTs and games. And when I look at their top 20 dApps on DeFi Llama, they've aggregated so much value, and a little bit of their story is very similar to some degree. EVM compatible, fast, cheap, easy to use. And albeit Harmony is faster, Harmony is cheaper. I can definitely speak to that. So what I'm curious about in your fund, are there challenges with attracting dApp developers? What are some of the challenges you might be facing in the competitive market? It seems like developers are so hard to come across. When I speak to different people building dApps, different people building chains and building DAOs, and I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. So specifically, when we talk about all of these if there's a challenge, right? Part of the challenge that you start with is whether or not the tooling that exists on Ethereum for an EVM chain exists yet on your chain, on Harmony. And for a lot of DeFi protocols and DeFi projects, the projects that really drive TVL, that tooling is fundamental. Like, you cannot launch something without an oracle. You cannot launch something without an index. And so making sure we have that available and have that publicly available, not just being tested, is a primitive to be able to get some of these other projects on chain. And then the other thing, and this is actually the biggest constraint that we run into, is how that other team can prioritize launching on Harmony. Because a lot of them, and I can speak very, very specifically to DAO tools, for example. I am a huge fan of a DAO tool called Coordinate. It's a mechanism to do peer bonuses and peer recognition of the work that somebody's done to contribute to a mission or a project or whatever it is. And it is great. I absolutely love the interface. I love the concept. I love everything about it, except for the fact that it's not on chain yet. Because they wanted to make sure that they got the user flow, the user interface, all of that stuff correct first before they would move to on chain. When I talk to that team, they are 100% about, look, we have to go to Ethereum first when we go on chain. And the reason is because that's where all of our users are. And so our users from Coordinate are all on Ethereum, so we got to go there first. And then their second question is, okay, where are we going to go next? Well, where is the next biggest locus of our users? And they build on that chain next. And so we and the DAO operations team are trying really hard to drive adoption of these tools natively into Harmony, so that when somebody like Coordinate looks at where they're going to go next, they can see that they have a lot of users on Harmony, more than they would on any of the other chains. And so that's kind of part of the strategy of how we are answering those questions. When it comes to total value locked, that's a very interesting metric. And I think it's part of how you can say that a particular project is succeeding, right? It's only one of many different ways of looking at it, but I think it is a valid way of looking at it. DAOs themselves, it's a question of how you evaluate the phrase locked, right? Like, is something locked if it's just in a multi-sig? I don't think so. I mean, this goes back to the question that business finance people ask about liquid versus illiquid assets. I think total value locked ends up being something like, it is actually locked, like it's an illiquid asset. It's staked. You can't immediately take it out and spend it. And DAOs in general, that funding of that multi-sig wallet is still able to be spent or moved out of that wallet in one way or the other. We are trying to encourage DAOs to reach for self-sustainability through a staking mechanism, which would increase the overall TVL locked on Harmony. But what we don't want to do is, from Harmony core team, the Harmony Foundation, reach out and say, this is how you have to manage your treasury. The best thing we can do is say, hey, this is a best practice. Maybe you should put some of your treasury, like portfolio theory, put some of your stuff into bonds, others in tech stocks, others in, traditional blue chip stocks. But the idea is we can issue out some education about, here are some places that you can put your treasury to generate operational income, and see how far that goes. That's our goal, right? We want to be in a world where all of these DAOs, their operational income on a month-to-month basis is not coming from their principal. It's coming from the passive income they receive from staking, from participating in decentralized basic income, from lending and borrowing on Curve and on Anchor, from liquidity mining on whatever DeFi project you're part of. That's the end goal. Getting there is a little bit tougher. For example, as far as a tool goes, our current existing multi-sig, you can't stake out of it. You'd have to move that to a trusted individual to stake that treasury, which is not ideal. But that's kind of where we're thinking. I hope that answers your question. I may have rambled there a little bit.
No, it's totally fine. It's definitely a vast and kind of like a general and kind of broad question. So I guess the other question I wanted to ask is, let's play. I guess hypotheticals aren't the funnest, and I'm curious. So suppose we're in Decentral Miami, that just because I love that event so much, and I loved all the people that I met from the team. It was fantastic. I think you guys do an amazing job of selling the brand to people that might not be familiar with it. And I was curious how. I know Aave is an excellent protocol. Like Aave is awesome. Curve is awesome, and you can access these things on Harmony. What is it? What is sort of your value statement that you would say to someone that maybe has coded on Solidity, has maybe worked with some of those teams, has a small group who are working to build a new DeFi platform or a game? Like, what are some of the selling points in such a competitive market?
That's an excellent question, and this is much, much larger than DAO Vision, DAO Funding, grants, ecosystem funds, events, kind of the topic of the spaces. But what I would say is, there are a couple of things going for you as a DeFi protocol that you have to be aware of from operating DeFi, like a decentralized exchange. One of them is, what is the operational cost that you incur? What is the operational cost that your users incur? And how often can that take place? If you guys remember kind of the Olympus DAO, kind of during the tail end of 2021, when these protocol-owned liquidities were getting really, really big, really, really hot, one of the things that you found is it was difficult for you to do your compounding of your OHM tokens at that stage, because every single time you would either claim or wrap or stake something on Ethereum, you had to pay the Ethereum gas costs. And so you would wait until your profits from what you've earned would both outweigh the gas costs as well as, make sense for you to restake it. And that process, you can do that so cheaply on Harmony that it's mind-boggling. You don't have to do an algorithmic, continuously compounding coin or token or product. You can just actually go in every morning and do this and do this and do this. Actually, I did want to flag, because Peter just became a speaker, I do want to bring him on because he knows so much more about Olympus DAO than I do, and OHMs, that I would love for him to actually speak to this as well.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to address the question about, attracting app developers with so many layer ones, and we're all chasing kind of really the same applications, same developers. Like, what's the value proposition for Harmony? First off, it's a really valued question because it's very competitive out there. And so there's a couple of things that we do have going for us. So I've been in charge of partnerships and really kind of getting app developers to build in Harmony. And I don't know if any of you guys were here like a year and a half ago, but we had barely any applications, and now we have a ton. And so how did we get to that point? We did a couple of things. One of the first things that we did is, as a protocol, our brand awareness was pretty low. And so one of the first things that I really focused on was, we need to get some big name partnerships so that we can piggyback off their brand. And so that was kind of like the first stage. And so we did that. We did that with Sushi, and now we have Curve and Aave, et cetera, right? And so getting these blue chips on as partnerships with Harmony and their protocols on Harmony was really key to get to elevate our brand. That was one thing. Simultaneous to that, kind of like in a stage 2, is really kind of like penetrating a lot of the Web3 kind of hackathons and making sure that they are aware that they can build on Harmony, that the tooling is available in Harmony, we're EVM compatible, Solidity, et cetera. It's easy to port stuff to us. And so that was kind of like the simultaneous to the work that we were doing with these big blue chip names, right? we're at a stage right now where we really want to focus on Harmony first applications. And so I call these kind of like native Harmony apps, which means that these are applications that don't exist on other chains. These are applications that are on Harmony first. So DeFi Kingdoms is one of them. And my approach to approving grants is primarily on whether these apps are Harmony first. I'm not interested in any forks. I think most forks are garbage. Some forks that do some innovative things, I am interested in. But for the most part, most ports from other projects isn't really what I'm focused on right now. So Harmony first applications. Now, to those developers, there's a couple of things we use as kind of value props. We have this grant thing, right? We give money away, and so that's a very kind of like, who's not, right? Everyone is, and so we have to at least do that. We can help fund their application on Harmony. That's one thing. The second thing is we really want to take a more white glove approach in how we support developers. We are trying to do this better and better. It's definitely aspirational right now, but I would like to think at some point we take a more white glove approach to helping developers, especially developers that are building apps on Harmony first. Now, taking a more developer-friendly approach is pretty unique. If you've built on Ethereum, you're kind of on your own. The community is large, and you can get help from the community members, but getting help from any like developers from the Ethereum Foundation is like you will likely not get any help there. And so we want to make our developers, the Harmony developers, available to answer questions and be able to help in a variety of ways and make the developer feel kind of special. And so that's one of the kind of like a couple of the things that we do. And so we can definitely do much better in attracting developers, and would love help from the community and kind of learning how you guys think we can do better.
I really appreciate your transparency, for sure. I wasn't expecting this to be like a very easy question to answer. It's just one that I've been thinking about quite a bit. So out of curiosity, and this is just me being the capitalist, I guess, that I am. So I imagine that is a lot of value to be had. Being able to communicate directly with people on the chain readily. I very much appreciate the Ambassador DAO program too, that you guys actively have people who are talking about the chain and being able to answer, certain questions depending on whatever their speciality is, I suppose. The thing I wanted to ask, so here's another one. So I know I keep bringing up Phantom, but the only reason I'm picking it is because I've noticed on Reddit there's quite a few people that have made that comparison between the two. Not sure why, but what are maybe, and perhaps this might be too intimate of a question. What is
Am I the only one that lost that second half of the question?
Yeah.
What are challenges you might
missed
get
it.
from, like, what are the hesitations you get from developers, if any?
So hesitation, I'll name off a couple. Because we've approved like a bunch of grants recently, one problem that we are now encountering, and this is really a self-inflicted problem, is we've approved way too many, and now we're trying to play catch up. And so the aspirational goal of giving developers white glove support, we're not quite meeting that level of quality because there's just too many. And so that's led us to kind of slow down a little bit. We need to approve higher quality proposals, and also approve proposals that are more in line with our capacity. And so that's a self-inflicted problem. So we're trying to do better there. What other problems are we seeing? I think we have some issues around tooling. So, for example, Sam mentioned earlier the Gnosis multi-sig, the safe wallet, right? That's a fork. Like we forked that, and we've had some issues with that. We are in contact with the Gnosis team. We know them really well, but everybody is like waiting in line to receive support from them, and so we're also waiting in line. But we can't wait forever, and so we had to fork, the multi-sig wallet, which means that we kind of have to support that now. And so when there are updates, we need to kind of keep up with those updates. And so we have some tooling things that we could do better on, and that's just one example. Other than that, Harmony is a really easy chain to build on, and in general, the community is pretty great. Our developers, for the most part, are available definitely on Discord to answer questions. We're really quite competitive with other layer ones in terms of supporting supporting developers. So, and you mentioned Phantom, and I know you've said it a lot. And I don't know what your association is with them, but before Andre, like, made it on the scene, like Phantom, and I'm not going to talk bad about any chain at all, but the brand awareness for Phantom was really, really low until Andre. Now, and then like Phantom took off, right? But it was mainly because of Andre. And so that's kind of an important distinction there. But aside from Andre, there's as a layer one, they're quite at par with like pretty much the rest of us. Really nothing special. And so anyway, that's my answer.
No, and I think that was a very fair answer. And once again, I appreciate your honesty, like especially on a recorded chat. It just shows the transparency of the team. It's a reason why I've been a big supporter. I actually, on my second episode of our YouTube channel group, we actually interviewed the Hermes DeFi team. Awesome guys, and very excited for all the stuff. If you guys have not looked into Hermes DeFi, those guys are making some really fun degenerate DeFi products that are definitely worth exploring. And but anyhow, thank you for answering my questions. Love Harmony, great team, everything's awesome. Very excited for the future, long-term bull. Anyways, I'll give the floor to someone else.
Hey, really quick, you asked a question about TVL earlier, and I want to just address that.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so,
sorry about that.
So TVL is really 99% a function of incentives. And so hitting $1 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion is really like doesn't take much brain power, but it takes a lot of incentives. And so let's take a couple of protocols. When really the protocol, the chain that really kind of kicked the whole TVL thing off was Polygon with Aave, where they provided, I think it was like a $30 million incentive, right? Which really elevated Polygon to like everyone's radar. And before that, like as Matic, they weren't really well known. And I know Sandeep pretty well. But when they acquired Polygon and they kind of rebranded to Polygon, and then they did the $30 million incentive with Aave, I mean, they took off, and now they're doing super well, and it's a great team, and they're doing good work. But the bottom line is like TVL is a function of incentives. And so it really boils down to what level of incentives does a protocol want to provide? And that's literally free money. And so I want you to kind of think about that in order to grow. And so, Polygon decided 30 million with Aave was a good number. We don't want to take that risk because for the most part, that TVL is coming from liquidity providers that are mercenaries. They're in it just for the incentive, and then they will dump right away. And so we're not interested in inviting that kind of liquidity provider. And so, and we want to be better stewards over the treasury, and so that's why we don't do that. But TVL is like easy, it's really just a function of incentives. And so, to the question, like, why aren't you guys at $1 billion in TVL? Well, it's because we don't want to provide incentives to a bunch of mercenaries that will dump it right away. And so that's like a really easy question and answer. So anyway.
No, and I never thought about it that way, you know. And you're right. It is basically an incentive game, for sure. And it's very common for many DeFi protocols to make hyperinflationary tokens for when you first enter a farm, and you take those rewards from the initial liquidity, and then it gets dumped. And it's very hard to find very solid projects that have tokenomics that can make things run long term. And it definitely sounds like you guys are taking a lot of time and being very selective with who you're offering these grants to. And I think that gives me a lot of comfort. Anyone who's on this chat definitely gets a lot of comfort in knowing that, because there's definitely a lot of people that chase instant gratification, and oftentimes there's a great poem, if you haven't read it. It's called I think it's what is it? Anyway, something about two roads. Anyhow, but the road not taken. There we go. That's the poem, and it talks about how in life there's many opportunities that are simply the easy way out that give you instant gratification. And essentially, the moral is that oftentimes when you take the road less taken, the more difficult path, there's a higher reward, at the end. And the poem is very old. It's referring to good and evil, but you can apply that thought process, towards a project that you're building. And I'd never thought about it in that context, that people just come in and just dump, and that could be a big reason why so many chains jump in TVL at a crazy high rate and then just dump shortly after, and, slowly lose their I guess their sustainability or their network or their following. So that's awesome. That was some great insight. I appreciate it.
Hey, I just wanted to add something and circle back to your previous question about developers coming to Harmony, any hesitation that they might have, kind of elaborating on what Peter was saying further. Another thing that we are looking to do better, much better, is helping our new, but especially existing project teams rather, co-market their product on Harmony. We've heard feedback from the developers building on Harmony that they could use some help with marketing their product, and would really appreciate using Harmony's existing community to do that. And we totally agree. So we're looking to do a significantly better job at that. So what does that mean? That means bringing on someone who can dedicate time to working with these project teams, understanding where they're at in development of their product, understanding their successes, understanding recent achievements, so that we can then take that and help them create a story around it. That story being how such and such team found success on the Harmony blockchain with their DApp. We recently onboarded someone who goes by Globy. I think I mentioned this on the last AMA. He actually might be on this Twitter space. And that's actually going to be one of his primary responsibilities, is working with these teams day in, day out, staying in touch with them, learning what their accomplishments are or what news they have coming up to share, so that we can help amplify that. How are we going to help amplify that? Well, that's something that we're working on right now, is structuring that process. But we do have multiple outlets for these for us to use, right? We have Twitter Spaces, we have our YouTube channel, we have the new One Weekly video series, right, where we have a segment specifically on the ecosystem and updates. We have our subreddit, we have Telegram, Discord, we can do AMAs, feature posts, the list goes on. And I'm sure we can get even more creative. Right. So that's what we're working on. There's another thing that we're working on, improving co-marketing efforts with new, but again, more especially existing teams that are building on Harmony. So if you do have a chat, if you're listening to this and you're a dev, you're building on Harmony, if you're not in a chat with me, please DM me, create a chat with me. We'll bring in Globy. We'll stay in touch and we'll work together to make sure that your work, that your accomplishments are known in the community.
Yeah. Hey, I just thought of something. Let me add to that really quick. The white glove approach that I mentioned earlier, I think if we reframe these applications or app developers building on Harmony, these are really small companies, or we would like for them to become their own projects and companies where they make revenue that they'll be able to sustain themselves and their family. And so, what does a company need? Well, they're going to need a little bit of capital. They're going to need some go-to-market help, potentially some legal operations, marketing. They might potentially need funding later. And so we as a project, we are trying to provide all of that to select applications on Harmony that have some traction. We can't provide all of that to everybody, but we certainly can provide all of those services to the ones that have traction. And so that's, I think, quite a value proposition for applications that are looking to really grow and looking to use the application that they've built to support themselves and their family and hopefully create wealth and harmony, right? And so that's when I say white glove approach, that's one of the things I'm talking about.
Wow, this was like an extremely informative and very phenomenal, a lot more than what I was expecting conversation. I'm flabbergasted. I'm really, really excited for all this content you spoke about. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I love that you guys are doing weekly videos. Really, really, really do. When I was talking to Austin from Hermes DeFi, he was talking about a liquid staking token that they were working on. And, for all of my time I spent on crypto Twitter, I hadn't realized that there was a fork in February that made liquid staking possible. And so, I mean, it's just information like that comes out on a weekly basis, or will be coming out on a weekly basis now, that I think is going to really, 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 spearhead a lot of growth. At crypto Twitter, crypto Reddit is very messy. It's very hard to find a lot of information.
Sorry for interrupting, Mister. I just have to say, Sam needs to drop off. We've gone way over time here, but Sam, thank you so much for addressing things with the community today. We really appreciate you taking time out.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much. And you guys, I love being able to speak to the community. I'll be spending the rest of the day answering questions over on Reddit. There's a lot over there, and a lot of the stuff that they talk about on Reddit, we've talked about today, both in this spaces as well as the Twitter spaces we did earlier today. But I just want you guys to know, we're always listening. We're always trying to make things better, stronger, faster, more reliable, have the right strategic view, but also keep an eye to a vision and a program where we think everything will move to, right? To what Lee said a little bit earlier, the next big wave of employment of work is probably going to be Web3, is probably going to be DAOs. And we want to be well positioned to capture that as things move forward. So I want to thank all of you guys so much for listening in. I desperately want to thank my DAO operations team for being so incredibly supportive and so incredibly helpful. I want to thank specifically both Peter and Daniel for jumping on in here. They are both secret sauces to what makes Harmony what Harmony is, and I cannot thank them enough for all the work they do. I'm going to drop off. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. And I really hope you get to do something fun today. So with that, Thank you so much. I'll see you all later.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
And speaking to the last person who mentioned the video, thank you as well. A lot of effort goes into those videos. And in fact, as I'm listening to you guys on this Spaces, I am watching and listening to the 5th draft of the One Weekly video that we're about to launch on the YouTube channel, so that I can create timestamps for it and a proper description. We got the thumbnail for it literally this morning. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to make that happen. Loj he plays a huge role in it. Not only is he hosting it, but he's also editing as well, editing the videos. So yeah, hope you guys check it out. I'm hoping to have it posted in the next 30 minutes, no later than that. And we do read comments, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to post them in the comments of the video.
I will say, Daniel, I know I told you last Spaces that I was going to watch that video. I literally still haven't got round to it, and I'm dying to watch it. And I promise, when I get off here, I'm going back through these videos and catching up on Logan's videos. I cannot wait. So excited to see him. Sorry, Logan, I know you're here. I know I promised you I was going to watch it as well. So I think I've seen the first one, so I think we're all good there. Yeah, if anyone has any more questions, now is just time to ask. If not, we can wrap it up. I think we're good to go.
No, thank you guys for your time. I hope you all have an excellent weekend, and be well.
Also, thank you for Daniel and Pappy for jumping up here, and Rachel. It was great having everyone here today, and thank you so much. Keep an eye out for the event next week for Twitter Spaces, same day, Friday at 11 a.m. PST, and we'll see you all again for another special event then.
Yeah, before we hop off, I just want to share for next week, you guys, if you want to jump in and join the community conversation surrounding DAOs, please join us on our weekly open DAO Ops call. Happens every Tuesday. To get invited, go ahead and DM me your email, and we'll make sure you get an invite to that. The only criteria is that you are a signatory on a DAO. So if you are and you want to join the conversation around DAOs, please join that call. Devin and I are working on DAO tooling, and the whole DAO operations team is working very hard to improve the community sentiment surrounding DAOs. So you guys want to join, just DM me.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening. Enjoy your weekend.
Real quick, if you want to continue this conversation over on Reddit, I've just shared a link. It's the far left tweet up at the top. They will be answering more questions on these topics over on Reddit. So please follow that. I'll keep the space open just a little bit longer. I will just go back over some DAO announcements real quick, just to give you all time to check that stuff out, and also click that link over to Reddit. If you go all the way to the far right of the tweets, every Monday night at 7 p.m. UTC in the Community DAO Discord, we have open town hall meetings where we invite anyone and everyone to come share your thoughts and participate in the conversation on the direction of the DAO. If you'd like to join, just follow the link in that tweet up there. The next one over, we have open working groups in the Crypto Arcade every Wednesday. It's similar to the town hall, except a little bit more focused. We pick a couple of topics each week to really hammer down and try and get some work accomplished on. It's a fun environment too if you've never been to the Crypto Arcade. So you can find us if you give us a follow. We tweet about that regularly. Also, every Thursday night we have a Community DAO movie night. Next week's showing is Dirty Work. It's just kind of a fun environment where the people there just kind of make jokes and communicate throughout the movie. Just a little community building activity that we've got going on. Hoping to get some more of those type of events in the near future. Also, we have currently a meme contest going on, Meme Madness. and that's going on over in our Discord. We've got some great prizes, some NFTs from some Harmony projects that are pretty hot right now. So you still have until tomorrow to get your entries in. So join our Discord and look for the channel Meme Madness, and check the pinned tweet to see the rules for entry. Also, the community DAO has recently gotten the green light to further develop the Crazy.1 domains. And if you're not familiar with them, they're these domains that you can purchase, put your own name in it. And currently, the only use case for it is to put your most recent tweet in there. But the funds from the sale of that go towards the community DAO treasury. And we're hoping to build that out quite a bit. Think of it almost like a Web3 MySpace, where you'll be able to link your wallet, show off your NFTs, put bios up, and links to projects that you follow and stuff, and a bunch of other plans for that. So as part of that, we are looking for anyone with UX, UI, graphic design experience. And at the tweet above, you can click on the form there to apply for it. Even if you don't have any experience in those areas, would really appreciate a share on that tweet so that we can get a good list of candidates for that. Also, if you look at the next tweet over, you can subscribe to the Harmony One community calendar, where you can link it to your Google Calendar and be alerted to any and all events such as this one that go on throughout the week. And also, if you have any Harmony related events, we'd love to add it to the calendar as well. And if you'd like to catch any of the recent conversations we've had with core team members in recent weeks, they've really been great, enlightening conversations. They're all recorded. The links to them are above the space. You can also find them in our profile. But if you enjoyed today's space, I highly suggest you visit those other conversations. And one more time, I just like to suggest that anyone that wants to continue this conversation, follow the Reddit link above. And yeah, that about covers it. Thank you so much to our speakers, Lee and Sam especially, Daniel and Peter for coming up, all of our people that ask questions and everything. Really appreciate your time. Chuck just asked for the mic. I'll give him a chance. Did you have something to add, Chuck?
Yeah, for sure. We're just really enthused, obviously, about getting everybody's feedback, because it's so pertinent. And now that I see it for all the different departments, from development on through to sentiment, communications, and DAOs. So we want to throw out an incentive. If you want to give some feedback on this AMA, to kind of let us know your thoughts. The top 5 feedback, commentaries that we get on Reddit, we're going to give 1,001 tokens to. So get over there and leave your feedback. And then I'm going to see if Daniel's down, or the sentiment team is down, for letting them come on to maybe one weekly and kind of giving their narrative and their thoughts as far as their commentary goes. And so if that's a thing, that's cool too. But we definitely want to throw that out there for everybody. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. And with that, I guess we'll sign off. I'm Harmonious Dude, signing off here for my man Bricktop here next to me. And thank you all for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care.
Love and light.